Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us here on the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. My name is Louisa and I help high achievers, entrepreneurs and coaches lift the lid on life and business. And we have something very special for you, our listeners, today with a training that we did recently on the Clubhouse platform. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Clubhouse, it is a social networking app where people create rooms and discuss a wide range of topics. And because it's delivered direct to your mobile device, you may notice a difference in audio quality, which we're hoping doesn't take away from your listening experience. What is important, of course, is the content that we're sharing. And I invite you to be intentional with what you wish to receive from listening today. How do you want to feel after you have listened to our session? For more information on how you can join us on future Clubhouse meetings with me, Louisa Havers, be sure to check out the show notes below, and we will see you in the Clubhouse. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. I'm so excited because I have the incredible Siv Harstad here with me today. And I'm going to, by way of introduction, just share with you Siv's bio. So you'll see why I'm so excited that we have this conversation today. So Siv is a speaker, expedition leader, and author whose philosophy is to inspire and motivate people to dream big in their life. After surviving Nepal's 2015 major earthquake, resilience and determination led her back to Everest, making her the first Norwegian woman to climb Mount Everest from the Nepali side. Growing up on a small sheep farm on the west coast of Norway with a family of entrepreneurs, her role models taught her to be strong and independent, which led her to living and working all over the world, the USA, Nordics, Greece, Netherlands, and Brazil, and working intensely in corporate culture. She suffered severe burnout, which made her sick for years. Both her illness and earthquake experience made her reevaluate what's important in life. So Siv gave up her successful career in management consulting and HR to pursue her dreams. She has climbed the 7 summits, 5 out of the 7 of the world's tallest volcanoes, and is on a mission to the North and South Poles. Siv is proof that by having the courage to follow your heart, you can get what you want. Therefore, helping others achieving the same through her talks, workshops, and expeditions is her mission. Welcome, Siv. I'm so excited that you are here. Thank you for joining us today.
And thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited for our listeners to get to know you. So our topic is handling change and challenges on adventures. And a huge welcome to everyone who's joining us today and tuning in. So Siv, let's start at the beginning. What was it that led you to doing what you do today?
I think, growing up in Norway on the west coast, we have the mountains. So that's been a part of my life, forever. And then I got, curious about high altitude mountains and really wanted to do Kilimanjaro a long time ago. And long story short, nobody wanted to go with me. And I ended up climbing the highest peak in South America instead, actually not realizing that that was a much tougher, bigger challenge. And nobody told me.
It's one way to find out.
So I wouldn't recommend anybody to start there, but I didn't know better at the time, and managing and actually being one of very few people in our team that summited, made me feel like, oh my goodness, I can master this, and was so grateful. And I kind of got like the mountain bug that, you come home from an expedition and you just have the 3 more places to go on your list. And being in corporate, it's not easy to say, well, I need 4, 5, 7 weeks vacation, That was a challenge, but basically I managed to be able to do some of that. But then about almost 10 years ago now, I had like a major burnout.
Oh gosh.
Being a good girl and pushing on, and yeah, I can do that, and I can help you with that. Of course, you're sick, blah, blah, all of that. And I got some signals and I didn't really take them because I was thinking, oh, come on, see if you can do it. Just work, So I pushed it probably 6 months after some major signals, which made it so much worse.
Yeah.
So, so
Burnout is serious, isn't it? It's a term that we're very familiar with, people recognizing I'm feeling a bit burnt out, but like real burnout is serious. It can
yeah,
take you completely out of the game, can't it?
it does. And I didn't sleep. And of course, when you don't sleep, that's when your body is regenerating and all of that. So that is, that can cause major illness, just that you're not sleeping. And when I finally stopped, I couldn't concentrate, if my life depended on it. I couldn't read a page in a book. And I've lost my short-term memory and some other, and I was physically sick. That's basically how I could see it or feel it, because when I came to my doctor, she's like, no exercise, no jogging. You can go for a walk. That's it. Because my blood pressure was like record high,
Mm.
and being, not that old and not allowed to exercise, that was like a major wake-up call for me, because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, how did I end up here?
Yeah.
Healthy, strong person and all of that, and suddenly you're, and I was in a place where going to acupuncture or doing something to try heal my body was like the major task of that day, and I had to go home and rest after it.
Mm.
That is not something I wish other people to experience.
No, that's it. That's serious. How long does it take to recover?
2 years.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, and I'd say that even reading is not back at the level where it was before this happened yet. So I guess some of that will always be there.
Yeah, it is. It's paying attention, isn't it? That's what I'm hearing as a shout out to anyone who's listening that may be thinking I'm feeling a little bit burnt out, is to really pay attention to those early warning signs, and not pushing through, because I think there is a real culture to push through, isn't there? We're being strong, super women if we push through. No.
Yeah, that's what society is telling us,
Mm.
go hustle, go do this, all of that. But they actually could measure changes on my brain. He said, you're normal, but we can see some signs of stress over a very long period. And that's how severe stress is affecting us, that it's making changes in our brain, which is so not good,
No, not good at all. So that was so the burnout came from the pushing yourself at work and not listening to the signs, which obviously had a huge impact on your health.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, you got the bug for extreme adventures, and mountains. So during those 2 years, were you able to, do any exercise to start to build up? How did you build back up to going on doing these extreme expeditions that you do?
Yeah, and the kind of interesting thing was that during those 2 years, I decided to climb Everest, and I previously had said, no, thank you, I'm not going there. And not only that, because the guy who was supposed to be the expedition leader canceled, and I ended up as the expedition leader.
As you do.
Yeah. But I basically started to train really slowly, once a week, and had to make sure I rested, because if I didn't rest after my exercise, I felt like hangover from having a big party the day after.
Wow.
So the body was like giving me all the signals on how to behave and all of that. So I started to listen and follow what the body says, and that's been a journey, but it's been really, really good. So now I can, if I feel like I don't sleep so well or something, I was like, okay, what's going on, Steve?
Yeah.
Because there is signals, we just kind of push them away and not listening to them in the everyday life. Everybody does this, because we have all these excuses that it's important and blah blah. But
we can get onto that sort of. I liken it's like a hamster wheel, isn't it? It's just we're in that momentum of just doing. So we just keep on doing. It's easier to keep doing rather than to stop, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
and then the brain's going, oh, well, I'll just get this thing done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's so important to actually be, instead of living up here, listening to the brain that's kind of on that, just do that thing, listening to what the body's saying, like you're saying, of actually, no, you've just had that exercise.
Yeah.
Rest, and allowing that rest and not making it. I think one of the things I hear from other people that have had burnout as well, tell me if this resonates, is that, actually it feels like it can be, we're telling ourselves, I think you mentioned this actually, around society saying that we're stronger if we keep going, rather than actually we're stronger if we listen to our bodies and allow ourselves to rest, and that actually there's strength in that resting and going within and nurturing and taking care, so that you can carry on doing all the things that you love doing and going and climbing Everest.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you think about it, top athletes, they spend a lot of time resting. But we normal people, we're like running around. After work, we're going to exercise, then we're going to meet with friends, we're going to maybe have some kids you take care of, and it's like blah, 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 blah. We never rest. But, people who are actually top athletes and any sports, they spend a lot of time resting.
I love that. You've just completely reframed it for me, so that when I'm resting on the sofa with my Netflix, I'm being like a top athlete.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're actually starting a very interesting project with a new sponsor, actually, that they work with music and how it's affecting us and our body. And they're having even a researcher who's looking at how music can help you recover from exercise and stuff like that. So really, really cool.
That is so cool. Oh, I'm so excited to hear more about that project as it starts to unfold, because yes, I love using music as well within when I'm working with my clients, because I find it so helpful to help people tune into the right frequency of the emotion that they want to be feeling more of, so that they can create the reality that they want to create.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear a little bit more, if you can indulge us, around your trip to Everest, because I know, having watched your TED talk, and obviously I've known you for a while now, I've had these conversations before, but I think it's I'd love for our listeners to hear about your trip to Everest. What happened?
Yeah, I think like I was on this journey getting healthy from being ill, and actually planning to go to Everest was my reason to become healthy again.
Okay.
Which was important at the time. But after having, worked for a couple of years, planned everything, we come there in 2015, and then we have the massive earthquake 3 weeks in, so that was, I don't know, it's what they say, soul touching experience, where 7.9 on a Richter scale. I think people don't realize how heavy an earthquake that is, but I describe it as being on a boat in storm. It's hard to stand on your feet,
Yeah.
And that day in Nepal, 9,000 lost their lives and 1 million lost their home, so that was like devastating things that was happening around us. And we just, that day it happened, we didn't understand that severity of it. But when we did, it was really easy to say, okay, guys, let's go home, both out of respect of the people that we were with, so that they could go to their family and all of that. But we decided to go home, and 2 days later they closed the mountains, so nobody could actually climb that year. So
wow.
So that's handling a massive change, you could say. You made all this preparation, planning, paid all this money, and everything changed like that,
Yeah. Beyond your control as well, from that perspective, like,
yeah,
incredible. I cannot even begin to imagine what that must have felt like to have been living through that, and like you say, being on a boat in a storm.
Yeah.
Beyond solid ground, like, it's just terrifying to me.
And what was maybe even more scary was all the aftershakes, because that was several times a day, and during the night, even you wake up and you're like, on your way out of the building before you're even really awake, because your body is like in survival mode, you know?
Yeah.
So for a long time afterwards, I was actually, if I was a place where there was some vibration in the floor, I was on the run.
Of course, your body's like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Where do you go though? You can't escape an earthquake. That's the thing,
No,
isn't it? But that must be terrifying for the body as well, to the mind and the body.
yeah, and I think, but you can run out of a house because the building can fall down and all of that. Or yeah, but yeah, you can't run from it. It's there. So I actually needed to do some coaching to change that strategy that I had to run every time I felt vibrations, you know?
Yeah.
Now I'm checking what it is before I run. And then, you know, I decided I didn't want, because that was a massive change. We canceled, but already at the time when I canceled, I was like, I'm coming back next year. And it was really interesting to see how different people reacted to the experience, because one thing was how the people in my team behaved. One of them became really depressed, didn't want to be social, just wanted to stay in bed under the blanket, not food, no nothing. One person was like behaving not nice. He was like almost like pissed off and behaved like like that.
Really? Yeah.
And the other person was like over the top, really, everything was so joyful.
You got the full spectrum of reactions of how coping and not coping.
So I was really grateful for being like a mental trainer and a coach, you know, because I could help the person who was depressed by doing a coaching session with him, and he was feeling so much better after that. And the rest of it we kind of just lived with. But we chose to make every day as good as possible, because that was a choice in the middle of the situation. And I think that is a learning that is important for us in the situation the world is currently. You can, you know, dig down in the newspapers and all of that and be like, oh no, and it's so bad, and it's like all of that. Or you can choose to say, okay, how can I have a good day today?
Yes.
Yeah, that's going to make the whole difference, you know?
Big difference. And it's, you know, that's something that we can apply whether we are, you know, just the day-to-day here or doing something extreme like climbing Everest.
Yeah.
Being able to take those lessons.
Absolutely. And you know the story. When I went back, everything was going smoothly, except from on the summit push, where I had some problem with my oxygen mask.
Yeah.
And that led to me losing my vision on the summit.
Whew.
Yeah.
How was that? So tell us a little bit more. So you were at the summit, oxygen is reduced, and when you lost your vision, was it like black? Did you have any partial sightedness at all? I'm just thinking, how did you get down? Like, how did you feel? How did you cope with this?
I will say that I would never, if I could choose to be blind for 24 hours, that is for sure not the location I would go for.
Yeah, not on the summit of Everest. Yeah.
No, I noticed that something was off when I was in the south summit, with like 100 altitude meters from the summit.
Okay.
Because I noticed that I couldn't see the contours of the snow anymore. And because I've had some problems with my oxygen mask, it kind of leaked condense up to my googles. So I had to take them off a lot of time to just take off the condense, because if not, it would freeze and then I wouldn't see anything with the googles on. and it's so ingrained in my brain, never take your glasses off in a high altitude because the sun is so strong, it can, give you snow blindness and all of that.
Ah,
And at the time I had forgotten I had bought contacts with UV filters, so it was physically not possible for me to get snowblind, but I had forgotten that. So I was thinking, oh, it's probably because I'd taken my goggles off,
yeah.
Then I came to the summit, I could still see, but the 20 minutes I spent there, looking out, taking some pictures, like being like, yeah, I made it,
Made it. Amazing. Yeah.
But I kind of knew something was off, so I didn't call home like I had planned because I was afraid that they're gonna hear something was wrong, and I didn't want to worry them, So,
Mm.
so I didn't do that. And then as we were leaving, I was like, "Oh my goodness, I don't really see well."
Oh,
And
yeah.
at that time, it was a little bit like when you get sunscreen in your eyes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. I can relate to
you know
that.
how it
Yeah.
feels.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, I don't really see well," and normally, or the plan was that I should have had one Sherpa, like one Sherpa and me, that
Mhm.
will climb together. Because my plan had been to, after Summit Everest, was to go directly to Lutze, which is the neighbor mountain that we can go from Camp 4 Everest to Camp 4 Lutze and then summit and down.
Mm.
Um, I had asked to have one spare Sherpa that would stay in Camp 4 on Everest and go with us. He's being fresh after our summit push. And for some reason, he came with us to the summit of Everest. He shouldn't have, and I didn't think about it when he did, because if I had thought about it, I would have told him to stay in Camp 4.
Oh, wow.
So that was like my lucky day that I had actually two guys there instead of one.
Wow.
Because
You've looked
then,
after.
yeah, because
Yeah.
when I was then turning around, I was like, I don't really see well. And first one of them said, well, just go behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we came back to the South Summit, everything was white, So I was like, guys, I don't see.
Oh, how long did that last for, Steve?
24 hours.
Gosh.
And the thing is, when you're above 8,000 meters, you cannot stay there
Mm.
because your body is deteriorating while you're there, even with oxygen. So even with oxygen, there is a limited number of hours you can be there.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that I had to go down. So I just said to them, okay, so how do we do it? And they're like, hold on to the rope. And I was like, yeah, I don't see it. You have to give it to me,
Wow. Yeah.
And then they asked me if I wanted to rappel. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And thankfully I had the experience that they fixed the rope for me. And then I did the rappelling without seeing. So we had one guy rappelling down. The other guy fixed my rope, told me where to go, and just, okay, now you can rappel 50 meters. And then the other guy was like, stop, you're down,
Wow. Yeah.
And then we also had some other, because some places is wider, but
Mm-hmm.
at the summit area, it's really, really narrow and so steep. It's on one side, 2,500 meters, like straight down, and the other side, 3,000. So,
You're blowing my mind.
you don't want to tumble over your own feet or anything there,
Yeah.
And then,
Wow.
so we took a lot of time to climb down, of course, because they helping me and all of that.
Mm.
That was like, yeah, I was so exhausted.
I'm not surprised.
When I got down, I was like, when we kind of came when we climbed down, I was like asking, okay, where are we now? Because there's like some names, so I could know like, okay, we're at the balcony, or we're,
Yeah.
different places. But after a while, or towards the end, I didn't want to ask because I didn't want to have the answer in case it was far.
Don't tell me. It's that feeling of like an extreme, how much further to go. I remember my kids always say like, oh,
Yeah.
it's so long. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And in the end, I could like feel that it kind of flatten out a little bit, you know. So then I was like asking, are we soon there? And they're like, yeah, just, you know, soon at our tent. It was like the best tent, you know, climbing into that tent, into my sleeping bag. That was like, oh goodness, you know, just wanted
Oh,
to sleep.
yeah, I'm not surprised. So how did you like the recovery afterwards? Because I know you talk about resilience and being able to handle those challenges, and that's a such an extreme experience for you to go through, and for, you know, at the top of Everest having to get down, and to have that experience. How did you recover and manage the coming days?
Well, I actually stayed one day in Camp 4,
Mm-hmm.
which is 7,900 meters altitude. And it's a place where you normally would not stay an extra day.
Okay.
Because of the altitude. But
Yeah.
we found that that would be the best thing for me, because we spent, the thing is, on Everest, you climb from Camp 3 up to Camp 4 during the daytime, then you rest a couple of hours, and then you start the summit push. So from Camp 3 up to Camp 4, and then I had a couple of times hours rest to the summit and back down to Camp 4. I climbed 32 out of 36 hours.
Oh, wow.
So after, and of course, I think we spent 2 or 3 times the normal time climbing from the summit and back down to Camp 4. So because we, you know, the body is really exhausted after that.
Yeah.
So to just, you know, give my body a little bit of rest, and also to see if my eyes could get better, because even in the morning the following day I could see a little bit again.
Okay. Mm.
Because what happened is that I got an edema on the cornea. Because what I now know is that the eyes is the organ in the body that is most sensitive to lack of oxygen.
Oh, wow. Didn't know that. Yeah.
You know, and what is even more interesting that I have learned after that is that the eyes are connected to our liver.
Mm.
This is Chinese medicine knowledge, and the liver is the organ in the body that is mostly affected by stress.
Of course.
Yeah. So because of my burnout, I probably had, you know, it was easier for me to get this problem that a healthy normal person would have,
Mm.
because my burnout was just a couple of years before this, you know, so probably.
So that ongoing impact, isn't it? And of course, we don't know this, do we? When you're planning your expedition, and not, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Recognizing, oh, okay, I can now connect the dots as to why I might have had that experience.
Yeah.
Um,
Because, you know, our common friend Yvette said to me, there's no coincidence. And then actually she helped me connect those dots with the stress and all of that. But also she asked the question, anybody else on the mountain had that issue? You know, it's like,
no. Yeah. So what was going on in your body that created that environment,
yeah.
for you to experience that? Yeah.
Yeah. And then after that, we managed to climb down to Camp 2 the following day, and the day after down to base camp. So, you know, climbing high altitude, the summit is, many people will think it's the goal, but actually you have to come back safely as well, which is just
a point. Yeah. Yeah. You want to come back.
Yeah. You're only halfway when you're on the summit, you know?
Yeah. You've experienced so much. It's just incredible, even with just that one expedition. And I know there's been, you know, to sharing your bio with everyone, so much more. As you reflect back, what sort of, I think, you know, what would be your 3 tips that you could share with our listeners, to help them overcome challenges, you know, based on all your experience that you've had, because you have overcome so much.
I'm thinking, like, the thing that I said is to listen to your body. I mean, no matter what you're doing, because we are pushing through and we're doing things that we think other people expect of us, and we never check to ask if it's true, you know. So listen to what do you really want? What does the body say? Is it exhausted? Does it need to rest? Maybe it's actually better to spend half an hour relaxing instead of going for that exercise today. I sometimes actually change around my plan if I feel my body needs rest instead of going out exercising.
Yes.
And I think also a lot of the time it's so important to get some perspective on what we feel is our big issue that we're struggling with. When I had my burnout and, you know, I could only train once a week and everything was really felt hard, you know, I got in touch with a friend and realized, oh my goodness, she just got to know she had a brain tumor. And I was like, oh my goodness, I don't have any problems, you know?
Yeah.
And I think if we start to look around, there is most of the time somebody that would love to change their problems with yours. So ask yourself that question, you know? Would anybody want to change their problem with mine?
That's such a great perspective shift, isn't it? When you can think, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And also I'm thinking, we find ourselves in a situation where maybe we are here and we want to be over here. It's not so easy to get fast from here to there, but what action can you take, like today? And then another one and another one, because eating an elephant, you can't do it in one day. You have to take a small piece and a small piece, you know?
Yeah.
And just to start taking the first step. You don't need to know how to do all of the steps, even to just start. You will learn as you go.
So true. So true. That feels such a powerful analogy. Just think of you saying, just take that first step of you coming down that mountain, not knowing how far it was, because having lost that, being able to have that sense, but just being able to have those markers, like it's like biting off the elephant, coming down that mountainside. Right, we've met that marker. Right, next one, next thing, and then you made it.
You can always take one step and then another one, you know?
Yeah. That's so huge, so huge. You've got so many exciting things coming up as well, Siv. I'd love to let's dive into that. And thank you so much for those tips. I think that those are writer downers for everybody that they can apply to their life. Wanted to touch on, I know you've got a book coming up. Tell us a little bit about, you know, the book that you've got coming up.
Yeah, the thing is, when 2020 hit, because first of all, my big goal, I haven't shared that, I want to share that with you guys, is I climbed the Seven Summit, which is the highest peak on each continent. And then it's called Explorers Grand Slam. If you add the North and the South Pole to that, and that is only like 70 people so far who's done that in the whole world.
Wow.
So that was like my plan to do that. And then as I was finalizing climbing that Seven Summit, somebody said to me like, Steve, have you heard about the Seven Volcanos? And I was like, what? And I was like, oh my goodness, you know, is that the highest volcano on each continent? He's like, yeah, it's a new challenge. And at the start, I thought it was really lame because it was like a copy of the Seven Summit thing. And then things start to grow in your brain, you know?
Yeah.
And I started to research, and then I found out it's not that many people who's climbed the Seven Volcano. Up until end of last year, it was only 23 people.
Wow.
And then I was like, have any of these climbed the Seven Summits? And I was like, no, it doesn't look like it. Or at least there is nobody who's done Seven Summits, Seven Volcanoes, and the North and the South Pole. So I was like, I'm going to do that. And then I found out that there's one person who was also planning the same thing. And there's another person who found out I'm doing it. So he wants to try to beat me to be the first. But I really, really want the first person to be a woman.
Yes.
Because I want to show that also women can be first in extreme adventures. And there's so many women now that are starting doing more and more of this, but it is totally male dominated.
Mm.
And I'm also thinking, I just want to do it for all the women out there,
I want you to do it for all the women out there as well. Yes, we're behind you. We're rooting for you.
Yeah. So that is like my big goals. And now I've climbed 5 out of the 7 volcanoes, and it's only 2 volcanoes in the North and the South Pole that is left of that big project.
That's amazing. That's absolutely incredible.
And then, what happened to all of us? 2020 came and hit us in the head. So my plans for 2020 could climb one of those 2 kind of went out the window and all of that. And then during the year, I hooked up with a friend who's also climbing the 7 Summit or doing the Explorers to Grand Slam. And he's a professional musician. And he's like composing music from the different places and planning to make like a symphony with all those mountains and the poles.
Wow.
So he's like composing for a 70-person orchestra. So it's really, really cool.
That's incredible.
What he's doing. So we decided to join forces because, again, together we are stronger than alone. And we also want to show that even when times are tough, it is possible to do things and to reach your goals, So we have created a project that we call Dare to Dream Big. And we're so far planning to do 3 expeditions. So we already did one in May to Greenland, where it was like a training trip for us.
So, I love that, because I remember you encouraged everybody in the Akashic Records group, walk with me, to do some walking every day.
Yeah.
And I know some of the ladies took you up on that and joined you.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So they did a little bit of walking every day, and we kited a total of 1,442 kilometers in 50 days. And now we're planning to do the North Pole in April and hopefully also the South Pole in November.
Amazing. Oh my goodness, this is so exciting. So exciting.
Yeah.
How can people get involved? Because it's so inspiring. Seeing you on these trips and being able to be part of it, and to have all the updates that you so generously share when you're on these trips. Can people sponsor you? Can companies sponsor you? How can people become involved in that way?
Especially companies, of course. We are looking for some more sponsors, and we are, we would like to do some special deals, because we can do talks. I can do training for management teams. We can take them on retreats, kind of places. We have some amazing places here when we can take them for a couple of days, having meetings, but also team building activities and stuff like that. And we can, test equipment or photos of equipment on the pole or whatever they would like. And like you said, we're writing a book. So our plan is to have like a coffee table book with loads of pictures from the Greenland and the North Pole expedition. So because we're going to the North Pole before we can finish it, we plan to publish it this fall. So for companies, it could be a good Christmas present for employees or customers, but even for everyone, this book, I think, will be amazing, because we're going to have stories from the 2 expeditions, and we have already from Greenland between 6,000 and 7,000 pictures, and some of them are like really, really nice.
Oh, well, I want a copy already. The way you've been describing that sounds absolutely, I can imagine it being stunning. And it's the closest that so many of us are going to get to being able to see these incredible remote parts of the world.
Yeah. And that's what I want to do more and more, share, the nature and the beauty, because sometimes I have to pinch myself. It's like, oh my goodness, it's so beautiful. And I really hate to freeze, but those moments are what's making it all worth it,
Yeah. Thank you for going and freezing for us so that we can have a snippet of this in the comfort of our own homes. It's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Siv, how can people stay in touch with you and reach out to you? What's the best way for them to get connected with you?
The easiest way to connect straight away is to send me an email, and that is my name, siv@aimloftis.com.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can put it under the video.
Yes, we will. Yes.
And on my website, aimlofty.com, it's I normally do some blog posts there with stories from the trips, and we're gonna have like a map that you can follow us on the way to the North Pole. That's working on that, getting that up there as well when we go.
What a great idea. That's so cool.
Yeah, so and then we're going to see how we can get some messages out, because it's only a satellite phone area, so we're dependent on somebody helping us a little bit with translating some messages into my webpage.
Oh, I love that. So a shout out, a call out for any companies out there that would love to sponsor you, and people can sponsor you as well, individual people.
Absolutely. There's a donate button on my webpage if anybody wants to do that. And so absolutely.
Oh, how exciting. Oh, thank you so much for coming and sharing your journey, your inspiration, your wisdom on how people can overcome challenges, and through the incredible experiences that you've had as well, being able to share the resilience and the importance of listening to the body. That's certainly something that I'm taking away from our conversation today. So thank you so much, Siv. I'm so excited to share this conversation with all our listeners. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It was really, really nice to have this talk today.
Thank you, lovely. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. Looking forward to connecting with you again. And of course, if you have any ideas for future shows or topics and you'd love to hear us talk about them, then please do message me at louisa@louisahavers.com. Until next time, sending you all so much love. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thanks for listening to the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. And if you like what you've heard and want to know more, please go to louisahavers.com. We just appreciate you so much. So thank you for listening and hanging out with us. If there's anything that we can do for you, you can email us at louisa@louisahavers.com. Let my team know if you have any ideas for shows that you'd love to hear or topics you want me to talk about. Really looking forward to hearing from you. All right, that is it for this week, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for today. Looking forward to connecting with you again. Until next time, namaste.